are 8 playable characters in Elden Ring Nightreign called the Nightfarers, and each of these characters have unique abilities and class identity to separate them from the next. With one character you could be at a distance using a bow, and the other you could be right in their face tanking all the damage and also dishing it out. So in this video, I'm gonna rank every Nightfarer from worst to best based on how much fun I had playing them and their overall viability. And remember, this is just my opinion. By far the worst Nightfarer in Elden Ring Nightreign is the Exeutor, as there is very little upside to this character. He has a very small health pool, and while he has an S scaling in Dex and Arcane, his abilities are just terrible. His passive is Tenacity, which gives you a damage and stamina recovery boost, but only after healing from a status ailment, meaning you have to get poisoned, scarlet rotted, frostbitten, bled, put to sleep, or given madness to even get the boost. It also only lasts 20 seconds, and while the increase is 20% extra damage, losing a lot of your already small health pool is not a great feeling. Then there is his skill Suncatcher, which is by far his best ability, but is much worse than the other character's skills. It allows you to pull out his sword and parry attacks like you can in Sekiro. The problem with that is you can barely move whenever you're in the stance, practically forcing you to hit every parry or immediately get downed. If you successfully parry 3 times, you get an enhanced version of his slash, which will deal extra damage. His worst ability though by far is his ultimate, which transforms him into a giant beast. It's honestly best used as a panic button, as it gives you a large health pool and heals you. The damage you do, however, leaves a lot to be desired, and the only thing it's really useful for is dealing with big groups of enemies or reviving you and your teammates at once with a roar. The Recluse is up next, and while she is the second worst Nightfarer, she is leagues better than the Executor. Her passive elemental defense allows you to replenish your FP along with building charges on your skill magic cocktail. Once you get 3 charges, you can use the skill again to unleash a variety of spells depending on what elements you pulled from enemies. The problem with the skill is if you don't get a staff with different elemental spells, you are locked into doing one spell for your skill. You could just use regular elemental weapons, but with your small health pool and slow dodge, it's hard to get in close to use melee weapons. What is useful is you can actually use your teammates to gain charges. However, it forces your teammates to adjust their builds to give you a higher variety of spells that you can use with your skill. Her ultimate Soul Blood song, however, is actually really strong. It marks all enemies around you for 10 seconds, allowing you and your teammates to restore both HP and FP with every hit you deal to the marked enemies. It has a long cast time, but like tons of ults in the game, you get plenty of iframes, so you don't have to really worry about getting hit. You can also use her spells to revive teammates fairly easily from range, giving you a chance to keep your team alive against some of the harder bosses. The Recluse is best played as a support character, but is completely outshined by other support Nightfarers in the game. For example, Iron Eye is much better at reviving allies at range and is overall just a better support. His passive Eagle Eye makes it so you get more drops from enemies for both you and your allies, which easily makes this one of the best passives in the entire game, since you can get a bunch of items to give you passive buffs, or even extra heals if you get a Warming Stone as a drop. On top of this, he has the skill Marking, which allows you to dodge through enemies with your dagger, marking them with a weak point, which makes the affected enemy take 10% extra damage, and when you proc the weak point, it can stagger the target, allowing you to deal even more damage to them immediately after. And Iron Eye's ultimate single shot is just as good, making you pull out a giant bow and shooting one shot that deals a ton of damage and staggers most enemies. It also pierces, meaning it can hit an infinite amount of enemies. You can also use it to instantly revive your teammates, saving your entire run with the press of a button. With the changes to bows no longer requiring ammo to use, you can always chip down enemies from range while your teammates keep the enemies away from you. The biggest downside is that each arrow doesn't do a lot of damage, but if you get elemental arrows, you deal more damage, and you can even proc things like poison, making your chip damage add up insanely quick. The Revenant is next on my list, and she is the most dynamic character in the game. Her kit allows her to adapt to all situations with her skill Summon Spirit, which as the name suggests allows her to summon one of 3 spirits into the battlefield: Helen, Frederick, or Sebastian. Helen is mostly used for smaller groups of enemies like clearing out camps, while Frederick is better against larger enemies and bosses due to his high stagger damage. And Sebastian is the most unique one since he can't move and is most useful to summon whenever you are about to use your ultimate, Immortal March, which like the name implies makes you and your nearby allies immortal, and it also triggers a special attack unique to each summon. Sebastian fires a giant black stream of magic similar to common Azure, dealing consistent damage to his target. It can be difficult to make it work though since he can't move and can be finicky to position properly. Frederick's unique attack is a spin attack that deals a ton of damage and staggers almost any enemy that gets hit multiple times by his multiple spins, which is especially useful against bosses. Helen's unique attack is the most underwhelming of the 3, since she only does quick thrusting attacks, allowing the summon to attack faster than normal. The Revenant's passive ability Necromancy is just as strong as the rest of her kit. If she last hits a normal enemy, it will reanimate the enemy as a spirit that will then help her fight for a minute. There is a max amount of these summons she can have, but in combination with summoning one of her family members, you can create your own gank squad, making her useful for every engagement even though her damage isn't the best. Another Nightfarer with low damage is the Guardian. He has the worst scaling in the game with only a B scaling in strength, but he more than makes up for that in his ability to tank. He has the highest health pool of all the Nightfarers and the highest resistances. You have to play with a shield for him to be effective, but his passive Steel Guard makes blocking enemies super easy. If you hold block and dodge, you will enter a highly defensive stance that slowly drains your stamina. The upside though is that you will almost take no damage from attacks, and you take reduced stamina damage as well, allowing you to effectively tank for your teammates. He also has really good crowd control with his skill, Whirlwind, which will have Guardian flapping his wings to create a whirlwind around him, pulling enemies in and knocking smaller enemies up. It can also deflect smaller projectiles, and if you charge it, the range is significantly increased. His ultimate Wings of Salvation is extremely strong as well. You jump into the air, slamming back down onto the ground, dealing damage in a large area of effect. And if you hold your ult afterwards, you actually protect your teammates in a large area, preventing them from taking damage. You can also use it to revive your teammates quickly if they are close together. If you don't hold the ultimate after landing, it doesn't use the full charge and will recharge super fast, allowing you to use it multiple times in a boss fight. And with that said, to me this makes him the best pure support character in Nightreign. Kicking off the top 3 is the most basic and easiest character to play in the game. Wilder has a super simple kit and works with every weapon in the game. He has an A scaling in strength and a B scaling in dex, with every other stat having a C scaling. While he is the most basic character, his kit is still really strong. For starters, his passive Sixth Sense allows him to cheat death one time, allowing you to play hyper aggressive until the passive procs. The best part about it is his passive is restored once he dies or passes through a site of grace, meaning you can fight a boss, cheat death, and then run to the nearest site of grace to get his passive back and finish your fight with little to no risk to yourself. His skill Clawshot also gives him insane mobility. You can fire it at smaller enemies to stop their attack and pull them into you, or at bigger enemies to fly towards them. You can also aim the Clawshot at terrain, allowing you to use it as a long distance dodge if you need to get out of the way of a big attack. You can also combo Clawshot with his ultimate Onslaught Stake to deal massive damage. Onslaught Stake charges up a large explosion out of an iron stake, dealing large amounts of damage and interrupting most enemies if it doesn't outright stagger them. You can charge it to deal even more damage, but if you use it uncharged, you get half of the cooldown back, allowing you to use it multiple times in a boss fight. Its biggest downside is it can be hard to hit against mobile bosses due to its very short range. However, with that said, it's the easiest ult to use in the game. The only other tank in Elden Ring Nightreign is Raider, and he's the counterpart to Guardian, being the more offensive focused tank. He has an S scaling in strength and is best used with colossal weapons. He has slightly less HP than Guardian, but deals way more damage. His passive Fighter's Resolve makes it so he cannot be hit out of his skill Retaliate. It also increases the amount of damage Retaliate does the more damage he takes. Retaliate is a skill that allows Raider to take less damage while charging it before headbutting the enemy in front of him, knocking down smaller enemies and flinching larger ones. While using Retaliate, you can't die or be staggered, so it's best to use it to survive big attacks from bosses or to survive when you're already low on health. His ultimate skill Totem Stella is by far the best part of his kit. It summons a gravestone from the earth, buffing you and your allies' defensive and offensive capabilities. It also deals damage if you do it close to an enemy, and on top of that, you can climb the gravestone to escape your enemies, making it especially useful for Iron Eye or Recluse. This is by far the best ultimate in the game, which is added to an already strong kit. Finally, taking the top spot on this list is Duchess. Originally brought on as the Roundtable Hold Priestess, the Duchess is easily the highest DPS character in Nightreign. Her passive ability Magnificent Pose allows her to dodge twice in a row while only consuming stamina for one or two of the dodges. This allows you to play super close to enemies and get out quickly. The best weapon to use on her is daggers, since one of the relic abilities you can get for her procs your skill Restage if you finish a dagger combo on an enemy. Restage is an ability that reapplies all damage done to an enemy within a few seconds, making it good to combo with your teammates' ults or when you get a good riposte on your enemy. Used in combination with the relic's passive, you can trigger Restage twice in a row for a huge amount of DPS, and with only a 12-second cooldown on the skill, the damage stacks up super fast on any enemy left standing after your initial burst. Her ultimate skill Finale turns you and your entire team invisible, making it so enemies can't attack you. This is great to use when you need to revive a teammate or your group is at low health and needs a second to heal. It lasts for about 10 seconds and gives you plenty of time to get behind your enemy and backstab them if you want to use her ultimate offensively instead. She is without a doubt the best Nightfarer, and you should have at least one Duchess on your team at all times. That was every Nightfarer ranked from worst to best. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye bye.